Hi everyone, welcome back to the Nancy Boys channel. We're here today to talk about The Boogeyman, which we have just come back from the cinema to see. I got home about 10 minutes ago, so we thought we'd give you our thoughts. I have Chris here today, who came along to see the film with me. And yeah, I think we're probably going to have slightly opposing views on this one, but that's fine. Just to give a bit of admin before we go in. So The Boogeyman was directed by Rob Savage, the director of Host, which if you've seen my channel before, you'll know I love. It's one of my favourite horror films of the last sort of 5 years. And the film is based on a short story by Stephen King, I believe in the Skeleton Crew book. And yeah, and it came out today, being the 2nd of June. And all right, we haven't discussed this yet because we kind of promised we wouldn't say anything on the commute home. So go on then, Chris. What did you think of The Boogeyman?
I thought it was a fun film. It was a very kind of, see it once in the cinema, have a good time. May not revisit it. It was a very simple horror, I guess. A lot of good jump scares. I guess I'm pretty susceptible to those. But it was probably like threw my drink all over down throughout the whole thing. But it was good. I enjoyed it. It was very fun. It was a kind of a light-hearted horror, if you can call it that.
Yeah. And I guess, I would say it's probably similar, actually. And I think probably because I'm just probably more of a horror snob because I've seen so many horror films over the years. I thought it was fine. I thought the main characters were very sympathetic, and I kind of didn't mind watching their journey. I felt like actually it took quite a while to get going. I was kind of waiting for it to kick in because it was kind of like we sort of said on the way out. Actually, I think the plot was a little bit cliched, like a dead parent of some kind, a psychiatrist parent that doesn't know how to communicate, all that kind of stuff. But I felt like it took a while to really get into the meat of the story. Mm-hmm. Wasn't helped by the fact that we had cinema dickheads who were sat right behind us, talking all the way through it. So I got up and stormed off halfway through and went and sat somewhere else because they're the bane of my life. Uh-huh. But yeah, I agree with you. I thought it was a little bit by numbers, very much like the sort of thing that I would probably, like you say, see once in the cinema and then probably wouldn't revisit, which kind of makes me a bit sad because I really had high hopes for it. And maybe that's why I think we're slightly different, because I was just thinking it was going to give us something new. And I love Host by Rob Savage. And this is Rob Savage's first non-found footage type horror. This is his first like mainstream one. And we know he can do really good jump scares. I got quite desensitized to them by the end because there were so many. But yeah,
I think it does it quite well in the sense that there's a lot of suspense in the film. I think this is its main element. It really kind of carries it through. You kind of don't really want to take your eye off it the whole time, even though there are moments where it is pretty slow. I found those kind of the ways they kind of led you on to keep watching, and then suddenly there'd be like you could tell it was coming, and then it would get you. Or it got me at least, maybe not you.
But yeah, I sort of start to get a sense of like I know there's a jump scare coming just by the way a movie's filmed, and there'll often be a bit of silence on the soundtrack, so you're like, here we go, something's coming. So actually, I was focused more on you being like touching your leg, being like, there's going to be something coming up, which actually probably doesn't help.
No,
it's about to be really scary. Yeah, and I think problem is once I get in the mood with this kind of film where there's things that I don't like, I do start to get a bit picky. And there were a couple of things that we talked about on the way home that probably just wound me up. One was I've seen Lights Out. Lights Out came out about 5 years ago. I think it was like a late 2010s movie, and I loved it and I thought it was great. I've never seen it more than once. I remember seeing it at the cinema and thought it was really good. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And if you haven't seen the short film, just do Lights Out on YouTube and you'll get a little 5-minute sort of short of it. I found it was essentially the same kind of plot, because it's about a monster that lives in the shadows, lives in the dark, and then when you put the lights on it, it retreats. I just thought Lights Out did it better, and then that kind of ate into the experience for me, because I was kind of like, I've seen this concept, and I don't know, I was maybe expecting something different and original, and I wasn't expecting it to be so similar to something that's kind of already come out.
I think not only that, but it is a pretty kind of familiar horror movie trope with, the monster under the bed. I wouldn't say there's anything particularly original about it at all, but it is a fun watch. In terms of just enjoyment watching it at the cinema. Definitely one of those films wouldn't have the same effect if you watched it on TV at home.
Yeah.
But for me, I guess we differ in opinion in what we want from a film. I guess I went more into it thinking it was more likely be a once in the cinema kind of film, but I guess you had higher hopes that, considering it was from the same director as host, that we'd say a little bit more original maybe. So I can understand that.
It was exactly that. It was a Stephen King story directed by Rob Savage, who's a really good director. I just was expecting more. It's a bit like we went and saw The Black Phone last year, and actually I think we both came out of that disappointed, which
that was pretty rubbish.
It's like a swear word in the horror community, because I was on everyone's top list last year and I do not get it. I call it the convenient phone, because it was just like the kid had so many things in his favour to get out of that cellar. Anyway, we go on a rant. So yeah, I thought Lights Out just did the concept better. I think I didn't really get why all the characters, including the kind of the wife of the guy from the beginning, they all figured out very early on that the creature didn't like lights. So I don't know why they persisted to go through the film with so many lights off. It was so dark.
It was one of the most dimly lit films I think I've seen in a long while, considering the fact that you need light to ward off the monster. So, yeah.
I was like, just get some torches, because again, we talked about this. Lights did work. The little kid wore Christmas lights, and the monster didn't like them. So at that point, they were like, why don't we just quickly go to the B&Q equivalent?
But you see,
Home Depot.
You see, it would spoil how beautifully aesthetic that house was. So one of my favourite things about the film was that gorgeous house that the family have. It's this dark wood panelling, barely any proper lighting,
lovely.
No spotlights, just all very kind of dim wall-mounted lights and lamps and Tiffany lamps. My kind of style, but not great for this particular Boogeyman.
We were loving the interior design of the house.
Yeah.
And that was it. There was one shot. He was in a hallway, and it was like there was a lamp here, 3 wall lights, and something overhead, and it was still dim. It was still dark. Go and buy torches. You know that the creature doesn't like light. And then the other lady in her house, she just had a load of candles lit. It's like, no, just flood the house with light. That's the conceit. And I know that's not going to make the film, but it just takes me out of it, because it's like, this doesn't make sense. It's just not logical. And we both hated the dad because he was just fucking useless.
It's the very typical kind of, professional psychologist parent that has absolutely no idea how to talk to his own kids or how to talk about his emotions. Yeah, go over
as
it.
if
you're just stoned. Very kind of. I feel like I've seen that before in a film.
Yeah.
But I will say the lead actor, what was her name? She was fantastic.
As in the one who played Sadie.
Yes.
I've forgotten her name, but she's very.
She
good.
was really
we should
good.
know that, shouldn't we?
Yes.
Hang on, and we're going to look it up, and we're going to cut it in. It was Sophie Thatcher who played Sadie, and I agree with you. I thought she was really good, very sympathetic, kind of resourceful.
You kind of really wanted her to win it. She was just, I feel like she really carried the film through. Actually, she was, very watchable.
Yeah. One more horror trope, and I think we're probably ready to wrap up shortly. But one more horror trope which really pisses me off, and it was in this film as well. And it's like, I don't know whether they do it to just provoke a reaction, but it's such clumsy writing. It's just characters being so fucking awful, so insensitive. There was that bitch friend that we're supposed to think she's a friend, and she's like, "Why are you wearing your mum's dress? You're creeping me out." And it took her about an hour to slap her around the face.
Oh, but I have to admit, when she did slap her, that was one of the best slaps. I felt that. It was.
I wanted it to be a punch,
everything,
and I wanted it to be a pummeling. I hated her, but it was just a bit pantomime. Is anyone like that in real life? It was so. She literally walked into school, and everyone's like, "Sorry, your mum died. It's her first day back," and this bitch is just coming in.
And this spineless, I'm your best friend, who did not stand up for her once in the entire film.
Awful.
Who led that group of mean girls into their house. I don't know why she let them in the house in the first place, or why she agreed to that. Very odd choice, and I felt that wasn't really realistic.
Yeah. It happened with Sawyer as well, the little girl. She was on the bus coming home, and there's a body bag outside her house. And the other little girl goes, "Oh, I hope your dad's not dead as well." Fuck off! Also, who's like this in real life? I know people are dicks, but they were just.
That's quite a cutting comment as well from such a young kid. And it just felt a little bit disconnected. Let's just add that in to make it sound like none of these sisters have any good friends.
Yeah, is your dad dead as well? Okay, just really annoys me. And And I have some actually. We watched what's the film? Fuck, I'm gonna have to cut this out now. What was the film we watched? The Australian film we really liked.
Oh, Sissy.
Sissy. So
Pop.
So actually, yeah. So the trope of the bitch friends was also in a film called Sissy, but I quite liked it in Sissy because they were supposed to be caricatures and then they horribly died. So that was great. And like you can throw characters like that in, but I kind of want to see them get their comeuppance, including that little girl on the bus because she was a dick. Anyway, so yeah, I am a bit disappointed. I was just expecting a lot more. I thought that was going to be like one of the best of the year. I'm probably going to end up giving that a 6, which, given how I've rated some other films, I think that's quite generous.
I think for me going into it, I did expect it to be one of these films you go in and you see once in the cinema, have a great time and go home and I'm going to say completely forget about it, but it was a fun experience. I would maybe give it a 7 for that reason because it kind of met what I was expecting it to be.
All right. And actually in the cinema I was thinking maybe it's a 6.5, so we'll do that because that's a nice average of the two. So thank you very much for watching our review of The Boogeyman. Sorry it's been a bit of a dry spell. There have been like no horror films out for about 2 months in the cinema. So there just hasn't been a lot to review. But we did see trailer for Talk to Me, which looks really good. That's coming out.
So good.
Yeah, it's coming out in July and that looks awesome. So hopefully that'll pick up soon. And yeah, any more further thoughts before we wrap up?
No.
You can say no.
No.
That's fine.
None.
All right. Thanks everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.